I remember when I was a young child, inspired to study the martial arts. And one day I began my journey. And I continue on in that same grain to this very day. One of the most valuable lessons that I received as a young martial arts practitioner and student was humility, being humble, not being full of self, and respecting everyone, irrespective of what their talent was, their inability, their strengths and their weaknesses. Their age didn't matter. If they were younger than me, my age, much older than I, or even a very much older adult or senior citizen. I was taught to respect everyone. Not to mention that I learned this in my own home too, being taught by my parents. But what I'm getting at is this. I've found throughout all of these many years studying and training in the martial arts and even teaching now that there are some that never got the lesson. They never truly understood what the lesson was, and more than likely didn't even care. You have martial arts instructors. I really hate to mention masters and grandmasters and shifus and gurus and so forth, whatever the convenient title of the day might be for that person, or even doctor of the martial arts system or style in which they are studying. But you have these people who don't have a clue about what it is to be humble. There's so many of these martial arts people that are self-absorbed. All they think about is themselves. Self-centered. No one else matters. Making money, profiting from the students, and oftentimes the naive student, the person who is entrusting their children in your care, or even themselves in your care as an instructor, to teach them not only how to be able to protect themselves, but to have some sense of self-worth as well, and how to navigate in the world in which we live, which is a very violent world, to say the least. But I learned this lesson as a child. I continue to reinforce this to my students. Everyone is important. It's not about you. When you come to a class and there are children in this particular class and there are adults in the same class, everyone has to be fed. You don't come to class just because a certain person shows up, or you're looking for that certain person to show up to make your day. It is not a family gathering, so to speak, even though it is an extended family for the most part. But you're not going there for recreation. You're going there to learn what the lesson of the day is, and perhaps to learn something new. But you find these instructors who they can't do anything but tout their past successes, or what their state of excellence is, for lack of a better expression at that moment. Anyway, for example, I never will forget, coming up, there was a certain individual, and I won't mention his name, but he was very close to me. He's a master in the martial arts. He was always talking about who he beat. I kid you not, virtually every conversation when we would come across each other's path, it was about, he beat so-and-so, I beat so-and-so. All of the time, starting out the conversation within the first 2 minutes of us seeing one another. And it just wore on me after a period of time. It's like he just could not get enough of this. And then there was the guy, this one incident at one of my tournaments that I held some years ago. Now, he's a grandmaster, and people were just coming into the tournament that day. We hadn't got going real good yet, but I asked him if he would do me a favor and would he be a timekeeper. You know what he told me? Oh, no, I'll judge. So I quickly dismissed it and walked away from it. Are you serious? When do you stop being helpful? When do you stop being a student as a master? I'm going to tell this to you right now as I'm sitting here looking at all of you, my friends, my subscribers, my family, whoever you are, even prospective subscribers. Listen to this. I'm 57 years old. A few years I'll be 60. I've been in the martial arts since I was 10 years old. 47 plus years. Now, I'm a grand master. I've taught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students, hundreds and hundreds of people with various mental statuses, if you will, various degrees of, how should I say, deformities. Had people who couldn't use their arm, had people who were partially blind and even blind, I've had people who couldn't kick, and all they could do was use one arm or even just both arms and no legs. I had people who couldn't punch because they had surgery on their arms or what have you. I had people who were extremely obese. I've had all kinds of people under me. I've had students that were, what is my one student? ADD, ADHD. All of that, I've dealt with all of this and everything that you can probably imagine in terms of my students. But you know what has never changed about me? I still looked at them as my student without an issue. In other words, their conditions, their weaknesses, their statuses had nothing to do with anything when it related to me teaching them. I was still a student. I learned from my students like I learned from my instructors. What I'm getting at is this. Forget the rant. What I'm getting at is this. You should never stop being a student as long as you're living. That's my philosophy. I'm still a student. Despite all of my accolades and all of the trophies and all of the awards and certificates and Hall of Fames, you know, I am still a student. And I talk to my students the same way, and I say, I'm still a student. I learn from you too. There's always something to learn. When you get to the point, and I'm talking to you jackleg martial arts masters out there, you guys who think that your crap don't stink. When you get to the point where you think that you can't be taught anything anymore, or that you can't lower yourself to scorekeep at a tournament, or to keep the score, or to even be a corner judge as opposed to the center referee, or you can't pull out some chairs and put some chairs and tables out. When you get to the point where you think you can't do that, or it's beyond you, you're not a martial arts instructor, brother or sister. Something's wrong with you. You've got a real issue. And I'm going to say this. Everyone that's in the martial arts doesn't necessarily make you a martial artist, because it takes integrity. It takes diligence. It takes respect. Respect for one's self first before you can exude or give respect to anybody else. You have to respect you. But when everything is about you, you haven't learned martial arts yet, my friend. This is very fundamental. So that guy that didn't want to keep the time, I don't have very much respect for him as a martial arts master, let alone martial artist. He didn't get the memo. He didn't get the lesson. And for those guys that walk into your tournament and you ask these people and you put it in the information on the flyer, please be in uniform, whatever your school is. If it's Kung Fu, Kuksowan, Taekwondo, Karate proper, or what have you, wear your uniform if you're going to come on the floor to judge or referee or officiate. These guys come to your tournament They wearing their gold necklaces and their watches and their bling bling, and they're wearing short pants or jeans with 2 or 3 phones hanging off their belt, trying to be cool, trying to impress somebody. They're holding conversations in the corner when it's time to run a ring. Something's wrong. What went wrong? And it's not just black martial artists, it's everybody. But there's a lot of black martial artists that do it. It's all about them. They're coming there as if it's a bazaar or a fashion show, and they have to be seen. Oh man, I have a new motorcycle outside, you want to come see it? It's like, for real, because they know certain people are going to come and support the event that you're sponsoring. They take it as a gathering place, you know, to brag, as opposed to being serious about it. You know, we have all of these competitors here that are waiting to start their day of competition, and it's all about you instead of them. It's always about the student first. That word student, that person who's looking up to you as an instructor or as a black belt, minimally as a black belt. They respect the time that you put in. But did you respect the time that you put in? Did it matter? Did somebody just take your promotion fee and just strap a belt around your waist and say, that's it, you're a black belt now, you're a master now, oh, you're now promoted to grandmaster in Fu Wong Shu? It doesn't matter. My friend, listen, and listen very carefully. At the end of the day, it's not about you, it's about character. And if your character don't measure up, you don't measure up as a martial artist. Regardless of your rank, some people might not like this. I don't care if you like it. Don't care if you love it. If you are a true martial artist through and through, you will agree with everything that I just said. You see, we have a generation of people now that are just siphoning money from people, from the public. They're giving these campaigns, you know, oh, we're going to give you the first free lesson and you come in and so forth, and then it's $200 a month and so on and so forth. And they're hardly ever on the floor teaching. They put a student on the floor that's subpar, substandard. They don't care about really teaching. All they want is the money. Just like some of the mega churches. You have martial arts schools that are like that. You have instructors that are never there when you have a question. Excuse me, sensei. Excuse me, Shifu, I have a question. Can you explain this to me? And they stick their chest out and their hands on, oh no, I can't talk to you about that right now. Or you're not ready for this right now. Come on now. Let's get real. Talk to that person, because that person is a commodity, of course, to you. They're helping you to pay your bills on some level. They're pouring some of their hard-earned finances into your bosom. You owe it to your students to care, not act like you care, to actually genuinely care about your students. If you don't care about your student other than them paying you, what does that say about you? You need to get out of the game, because all you do is run and game. That's it. This is Brother Teacher. I'm out.